Okay, hello there. It is 16th of May 2023. Mr. Barr here. I'm just doing a quick video, well, as quick as I can, on file handling. One thing I wanted to do before the current cohort left to go on study leave, but they disappeared without us knowing. So I'm just going to quickly go through file handling. Hopefully, should be useful to you. Yep. So let me just flick across to me PowerPoint and we get started. So file handling is one of the advanced skills you're going to need for the exam. You need to know more for what we do in lesson than what you need to know for the exam. I had a quick look through the last few past papers and I can't find any questions about file handling. So we could put a bit of money on maybe there's going to be a question about it. You never know. Same with any sort of topic. So we'll just go through the basics and we'll see if any of it is of use to you. Okay. So this is straight from the specification. Let me just get me a little highlighter. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Okay, never mind. There we go. And focus on the main bit. So you need to know open, read, write, and close. Those are the main file handling operations. Now, from what we've been doing in the classroom when we're doing our programming project, we have been using the concept of append, which means add on to the end without overwriting, as we'll come back to. Now, as you can see there on the specification, it doesn't mention append. So I can't imagine you're going to get any questions which require that function. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Okay, doesn't necessarily say too much there about file writing on the right hand side, but basically you might get questions about file handling operations. Okay, so why do we need file handling? Well, when you run your program, it's running in RAM, isn't it? And if you think about if you've got any sort of data structure such as variables and arrays, whenever you run the program again, if it finishes, closes, run it again, they're just kind of reset and they're overwritten. So you need files for permanent storage of data. So you can see files are stored in secondary storage, which is non-volatile, and that's the reason for secondary storage for permanent long-term storage of data. Okay, so that's why we need file handling in our programming. So the main process of file handling, first we'll focus on reading data from a file. So I'm going to go through OCR reference language, then the equivalent in Python. I'll actually demonstrate it as well. So the key thing, first of all, is we have to open up our data, and that's using the open command. Okay, so this thing here, this is like essentially a variable. We can call it whatever we want. Normally it's f or file, and then we use the method .open, and then within that is our arguments. And in this case, we've just got our pathway to our file. Okay, in this case, it's data.txt. Notice that it's got the full what's the word? Oh, mine's gone blank. The file type, sorry, the file extension. There you go, the file extension. So .txt. You might find we'll be using .csv files in the lesson. I can imagine in the exam you're going to be given .txt files. Okay, and it's also within quote marks. In order to read the file, we then have to use the .readLine command. Okay, the .readLine. What that will do, that will read a line from the file and assign it to the variable x, and then we can print it. And the most important thing, when you are finished, you've got to end with .close. Okay, that closes the file. Otherwise, it remains open, and that means if you were to maybe you've got another program which makes use of that file, it can't access it because it's open already. So the Python equivalent is very, very similar. This is a case of spot the difference. Okay, the only difference here is that R. Okay, and what that means is we're going to open the file in read mode. In that way, we can only read the data from it, you can't overwrite it. Let me just give you a quick demonstration of that. So I've got, let's go into text files. Here I have got a very, very simple file, test.txt. There's nothing in there. Let's put some text in there. So, so this is the first line. This is the second line. I'll do. Let me just save that. So that's our data. So if I go into my Python IDE Where's it gone? It's called Thonny. We've been using online Python. This one's called Thonny. It's a different IDE. I quite like it. So let's have file dot open, and it was called test dot txt, and I'm going to open it in read mode. Okay. What was my next line of code? It was x equals file dot readline. X equals file dot read line. Print x. All that's doing there, it's taken the first line, next line, and assigned to the variable x, and then file not flee, file not close. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to run it. First thing it asks me to do is to save it. Now I need to make sure I save it into the same folder as the text file. That way I haven't got to put the full file path. We'll call it file read one. Okay, see if it works. Right. Test.txt is not file is not defined. File.open. So what have I done here? Let's have a look. So it's a good demonstration of the IDE. Okay, and the feature of the IDE here is it's doing error detection. Name file is not defined. That's on line file read one. File read one. File equals open. Oh, I know why. File equals. Okay, you can see the issue I had there. Okay, I had the wrong. That was a logic error. Okay, the syntax. There's nothing wrong with the syntax there. Okay, but it's a logic error because it's trying to find a variable called a file. So it's me being an idiot. Let's try that again. Right, let's run it now. There we go. That's better. Ooh. So you can see there, this is the first line. And if we open up our file, which is there, you can see it's just read the first line. Okay, so first concept is open the file. That's file equals open, and then the name of your file. Then we have to do the dot read line. That is going to read the line, the next line from the file, and then file dot close. As we can see here, it's only read one line. Okay, it hasn't done the rest. It's only done the one line from there. Okay, and that brings us to the next bit, which is, well, how do we read all the data from a text file? So the logic is this. This is the reference language we can see. So when you're presented with this in the exam paper, you'll see it like this. So it starts off exactly the same and it ends exactly the same. Open, name of the file, and we close the file. This time, what we want to do is we want to loop through every single line of text in our file, okay, until we reach the end. So the logic is, well, we're not at the end of the file. We want to just print that line. Okay, we want to print the line and just keep on printing that, read the line and print it until we reach the end of the file. So in Python, it's slightly different. The logic's different. So once again, it starts and ends the same way. We open it in read mode, okay, and we close it. What we're going to do, we're going to create a variable. We call it end of file. It's going to be a Boolean variable, set it to false. Here, whilst the end of file is equal to false, okay, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing this. What this does, line equals read line dot strip. What it's going to do is going to take each line, okay, and just get rid of any hidden characters such as /n, like new line, and assign it to the variable line, okay, then print it. Now what this is going to do is basically, if when it goes through, there's no data there, okay, so if it's blank, the end of file becomes true. Okay, then we close it. So let's have a go in doing that. So let's go back to here. So let's just amend this. So in this case now, let's get rid of that stuff in the middle. We can have end of file is equals false. Okay, while end of file is equal to false. What I want to do, we have line is equal to was file, oops, read line dot strip. right. Let me just check my syntax. Oh, I forgot my two little bits there. There we go. See if it works, and then print. Oops. Line. And then if the line is a blank string and then end of file is equal to false. No. True. It's the end of the file. Okay, so I'm sure this probably won't work, so I always make mistakes. Let's run it. Oh, that has worked. Brilliant. So now we can see it's gone through and it's on the first line and the second line. So all of our data in there. Now to test it, let's just let's add some more data. Okay, this is the third line. This is the fourth line. Okay, let's just save that. Put it down. Run it again. There you go. So when we want to get all of the data from our external file, okay, we have to make sure we indicate we want to loop through until the end of the file. Okay. Now in Python, it is a bit more complex, okay, because we have to generate a Boolean variable to indicate an end of the file. However, in the OCR reference language, you can see it's just that while not end of file. Okay, that's like saying while end of file equals false, essentially. Okay, I mean what we could do rather than saying while end of file equals false, let's see if this works. We can just say while not end of file. See if that works. I don't really use this method when I program, but it's just the saying while end of file is equal to false. Let's see if it works. Oh no, it doesn't like it. Well, not end of file. No, is that going to do it? No, no. Obviously, that's not the syntax of Python, so ignore what I just did. But anyway, you get the idea. So is equal to false, and I need 2 equals. There we go. There we go. Good. So that is reading data from a file. Main things: opening it, closing it. Okay, using the read line to read one at a time. Okay, and then just keep on repeating that until we reach the end of the file. Okay. Right. Now, writing data to a text file. Once again, very, very similar. Opening it, closing it, and in the middle, this time it's write line. Okay, simple as that. That's the reference language. Python, again, it's a case to spot the difference. Okay. Open, obviously we're using different examples here, but we open it. This time, it's the mode in which we open it. We're going to use A for append. In the exam, you see W for write. Okay, so main difference here as well. Here we can see it's file.write in Python. Here it's write line. Okay, in your exam, you're not going to get penalized regardless which one you use. Okay, so let's have a go at this. Let's go back into Thonny. Let's do a new one. We'll do file equals open, and it's called test.txt. Let's open it in append mode. Okay, we've got file dot write. This is another another line. There we go. Then file dot close. Okay, there we go. Let's see if it works. Let's run it. We'll call it file write. Okay, now it's run. Okay, looks like it's run okay. Looking over there. Now nothing is displayed because we haven't asked it to print anything. But what we should see now is in our text test file, we open that up, you can see it says, this is another line. Now, you'll notice that it's just gone straight on to the end, okay? Because it's not because the way Python works, it just writes it directly on to where the last bit of data is, essentially. So what I'm going to do is, let's get rid of that. Let's just save it there. So you can see there, my cursor is there. When I press enter, essentially, whenever I press enter, it's put like a hidden /n, which means new line. Okay, so I'm going to save it there. Let's run it again. See what happens. This time, hopefully, it should have gone on to the new line. See what happens. Okay, yeah, it's kind of gone on there. So if you're doing it in Python, what I would do is I'd make sure I do a /n. Is that going to work? Nope. Well, let's try +/n. So what that should do, it should add an extra line. Let's see if that works. I'm going to run it 2 or 3 or 4 times. So hopefully now we close that down. Yeah, you can see that didn't work perfectly, but it's done a new line each time. Okay, but fundamentally, when it comes to writing, okay, it's opening, file.write, and then file.close. Okay, in OCR reference language, it's just going to be write line. Okay, as I said, it doesn't necessarily matter, because if we go back to right to the start, you can see just needs to know open, read, write, and close. It doesn't mention anything about appending. Okay, very, very quickly. As I said, I couldn't find any past questions about writing to a file, so I turned to ChatGPT, whatever it's called. So let's look at this one. The following code snippet is used to read data from a text file named data.txt and display the contents. This one uses Python. Okay. Explain the purpose of the open function in the code snippet. 2 marks. Okay. Well, what essentially that does, that just opens the text file. It links the program to the text file. Okay, to the data which we're going to be using. So essentially, there's the same. So 1 mark for explaining that the open function is used to open a file. Look at that. It's quite obvious, but you know, you get marks for it. Now, understanding this is being generated by AI. OCR mark scheme would be slightly different. 1 mark for saying the open function opens the file in read mode. Only because it does state it in the argument there. Right, next one, identify, describe the purpose of each argument. Now, arguments is what's inside the brackets. Understandably, with subprograms and functions, when you define it, they're called parameters. So just bear that in mind. So basically, what does data.txt do? What that essentially is the name and the path of the file we're going to be using. Okay, and the R, well, that is the mode in which we're opening the file, in which case this is going to be read. Okay, so the first argument is the file name or the file path. 1 mark for identifying the second argument as the mode in which the file is opened. Okay, it's R. The first argument just specifies the name. Well, that's just repetition. Okay, once again, this is just repetition of the first one. Okay, now last one. Write a code snippet that uses the open function to write the string hello world to a new text file named output.txt. Right. So this is an interesting one because it's got to be a new text file named output.txt. So I'll tell you what, I'll have a go at doing this in Python first and see what happens. Because I know in Python, it should create the file for you automatically if it doesn't exist. So I'm going to have file equals, oops, open, what's it called again? Output.txt, output.txt. Let's do it in write mode, just so it's a bit different. Okay. string hello world. So that'll be file dot write world. Okay. And we'll do, remember the last thing, file dot close bracket. Let's see if that works. Okay. Let's do, what should we call this? We'll call this AI question. I'm going to get an error message. No, we're not. Okay. So the IDE says that looks good. Fantastic. Let's go in. And look, it's created a file called output.txt. And it should say hello world. Now, before I reveal the mark scheme on this, just one more thing to be aware of. Have I put it in here? I haven't. So just bear with me a second. Oops. Yes. Now, what did I get to? File handling, for loops. Oh, here we go. So here, this is the way they do it in OCR reference language. It'll be new file and then the name of it. Okay. So it creates a new text file called my text. The file would then need to be opened using the above command for open. So the way I'll possibly answer this in using their way, it might be the case of doing file equals, be new file equals output.txt. Okay, I think let's go back to the oops. Yeah, new file. So no, it would just be new file. Okay, so that would just be new file. Sorry. So you might just see something like that. So that would be the way you do it using OCR reference language. Okay. So anyway, let's just get rid of that. So and let's go back. So let's go all the way to the last one. So what have they got? File equals open output.txt, w, file.write hello world, file.close. Exactly the same as mine. So look at this. Yeah, this is probably quite accurate. Go away. One mark for using the open function. Okay, so 1 mark for that, 1 mark for using the write function, and 1 mark for using the close function. I've definitely seen this somewhere on a mark scheme. You get a mark for using the close function. So if you are tackled with a question like this, even if you put at the end the right sort of code for closing the file, you can get a mark for that. Right. Okay. I hope that's been useful. It's kind of been knocked together really quickly, so it's a bit all haphazard. If you have any questions, just email me. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. Let's come out of this. Let's discard that. And yeah, good luck in your exams. So let me just stop sharing and end this call.